The Spontaneity Shop presents All British Comedy Explained with Abigoliah Schamaun and Tom Salinsky. Season 1, Episode 4, The Goon Show.
Welcome to All British Comedy Explained, a podcast we almost called an English bloke mansplains British comedy to an American because that's exactly what we're doing. I am stand-up comedian and ignorant American Abigoliah, and...
I guess that makes me mansplainer Tom Salinsky.
There we go. Which technically it's not mansplaining because I've asked you to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
I have asked you to explain this to me.
At the risk of mansplaining.
Yeah.
Yes. If there's consent both ways, then I don't think anyone could object. I mean, this is the internet. People will find things to object to.
Oh, don't worry. People will find reasons to dislike us.
Yes. Anyway, our comedy journey is going to take us into the world of radio for the first time. How are you feeling about that?
I'm very excited about it. Why don't you tell our listeners what we will be listening to today?
So this is very much the patient zero of British comedy. If you listen to somebody talking about the person or the group that inspired them, very often they'll be talking either about the Goon Show or somebody who was inspired by the Goon Show, and that's what we're listening to today. Spike Milligan.
See, because we're doing radio, so I bought radio folios. We got Boing and what were you saying about Spike Milligan?
Spike Milligan, Harry Secombe, Peter Sellers.
Wait, wrong one. Hold on. Yay!
So does that applause suggest that any of those names mean anything to you?
I've heard the name Spike Milligan, but
from you,
but I don't know any of them. I gotta use it so then it's tax deductible.
Of course, excellent. Yes.
£8.
All British accountancy explained. Peter Sellers, you ever heard of?
Honestly, I've heard these names bandied about, probably by other people that are not you. But if you put up a photo of any of them, I would not know who it is. When people say Peter Sellers, I think Tom Selleck, and that's a different person.
That is an entirely different person, yes.
That's just two people whose last name begins with the letter Sells.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right. Now, I should also say, for this one, I am not really a Goon Show expert.
Okay.
So I did get some help. I called in the big guns, a very fine podcaster and longtime Goon fan called Tyler Adams, who I want to give a shout out to, who very kindly fact-checked an early version of my notes. So I want to say right up front, any little details I got right are due to him. Any errors, oversimplifications, or omissions are my own. And I would encourage listeners and viewers to check out Tyler's excellent podcast, Goon Pod, if this is of interest to them.
Very big thanks to Tyler.
All right, so The Goon Show was first broadcast in 1951.
Okay, so we're going back.
Way back. So this is the year that The King and I opened on Broadway.
Classic.
King George VI opened the Festival of Britain, which was a huge exhibition, mainly on the South Bank in London, but with offshoots all over the country. And I thought of you when I discovered this. The very first episode of I Love Lucy was transmitted on CBS.
You said 50s, and I was thinking about I Love Lucy.
There you go.
So, yay!
So, it starting that far back has an interesting consequence, which is, unlike people like Peter Cook and John Cleese, the architects of the Goon Show all served during World War II. Peter Sellers was in the Air Force, as was Michael Benteen. Spike Milligan and Harry Secombe were both in the Royal Artillery, which is where they met. And according to legend, Spike Milligan was in charge of a huge anti-aircraft gun, which he allowed to roll off a cliff, where it narrowly missed a truck containing, among others, Lance Bombardier Harry Secombe. Milligan stuck his head in the trunk and asked, "Anybody seen a gun?" To which Secombe responded, "What colour was it?"
So they were already working from the very beginning.
Exactly. And in fact, they spent much more of their time in the service working as entertainers. Harry Secombe became too valuable as a comedian in the Royal Artillery Training Depot show to be sent to the front lines. Spike Milligan was playing trumpet for an army dance band, and Peter Sellers was touring England as part of the Entertainment's National Service Association.
This all sounds very familiar to me because it's the opening scenes of the movie White Christmas.
Oh, right, yes, which I have
That's
seen, but not for many years.
That's how they meet.
Oh, yeah.
That's how Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby meet, serving in the war together.
I can never remember the acronym Entertainment's National Service Association is ENSA. This is how it's normally referred to. And unless I had that in my notes here, I wouldn't remember it. What I do remember is the joke version.
Which is?
Every night something awful. So after the war, Harry Secombe took his act to the Windmill Theatre in Piccadilly Circus, where he and Milligan met Michael Benteen, and these nightclub performances eventually got them an agent and an appearance on television. But this was a live broadcast from Crystal Palace.
Ooh.
Because television was in its infancy.
So this is back when television was plays. We've talked all about this in one
Exactly.
of the other episodes.
Yes.
So there's no footage of this, is there?
No, they're absolutely not. Television was still kind of in this very early experimental phase, but radio was big business. That was where people went for their entertainment. They gathered around the radio set.
Still is, sort of.
But a lot of the big radio stars were essentially music hall veterans. So music hall is the British equivalent of vaudeville in America. So these comedians and music acts and other speciality acts who tour around the country, basically doing the same act wherever they went. And they were recruited into radio, and most of them were kind of replicating their music hall act over the airwaves. So there were huge stars, people like Arthur Askey, Tommy Handley, Richard Murdoch. But Spike Milligan in particular thought that these shows were corny, they were boring, and he preferred American movie comedians like the Marx Brothers or W.C. Fields.
Yeah. So you said these were big stars. I've not heard any of those names before.
And nor has anyone listening.
I was going to say, yeah, have they stood the test of time?
It's the Goon Show that cast the longest shadow, and it kind of obliterates a lot of the other shows that are happening around the same time. If people do remember other shows from around the same time, like, for example, the Navy Lark, very often it's because people in that went on to things that are remembered better. So the Navy Lark was an early outing for the third Doctor Who, John Pertwee. So people have heard the name the Navy Lark because whenever you read about John Pertwee, it'll be cut his teeth in radio and things like the Navy Lark.
Okay. When you
But
say
no one's
early...
ever heard the Navy Lark, at least no one my age or younger.
Okay, fair.
Unless you are just like a particular fan of old radio comedy. So, one day, Michael Benteen invited his friend Peter Sellers to meet Milligan and Secombe. And Sellers was a bit younger than the others, but he was already developing an incredible range of impersonations and funny voices, which he'd already used to some effect on other people's radio shows. But like Milligan, he wasn't too impressed with the quality of the scripts that he'd been given.
So this is becoming a theme in every episode, is like it happened with the young ones and Monty Python, and not only but also of these people coming in and going, I don't like the way this is done, I can do it better.
Yeah.
So we're just doing this through the decade.
Exactly.
Everyone's
yes.
going, I'm wiping the board clean and I will do it better. So these are the first guys who wiped the board clean.
Yes.
And did it better.
Yeah. And that's partly because this is our landmarks season. That's going to be happening a lot. And it varies actually because
By the way, can I just jump in for our dear listeners? Because we have, I don't want to brag, but we have been yelled at on the internet. The theme of this, well, I'm going to say it again, of this particular series or season, depending on which country you're listening in, is landmarks, as in the shows that change the game. Just because you like Absolutely Fabulous doesn't mean it changed the game. I also want to watch Absolutely Fabulous. We will get to Absolutely Fabulous and Only Fools and Horses and Faulty Towers. But these are the ones that wiped the board and started over.
Yeah. And it's worth saying that it's usually not a kind of scorched earth. Like, for example, Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson talk very fondly about listening to The Goon Show.
Yeah.
So they are building on what went before, but very often it's what comes immediately before that they don't like. So in the case of Milligan, Sellers, Secombe, it's the radio comedians who are doing their musical act. Did you know on radio at this time there was a show called Educating Archie?
No, what's that?
Which was a ventriloquism act on the radio. It was hugely popular.
Oh, God, why is it still going? Hold on. It doesn't like it.
You're being heckled by your own technology.
There we go. All right, I'll stop playing that now. I just wanted to get crickets in once. Okay, stop looking at your toy.
Yeah, it was one of the hugest shows, and a couple of other comedians that we might meet at some point got their break being the foil to Archie.
You know, I think I could be a ventriloquist on the radio. I think
doesn't seem too hard, does it?
Yeah, that's one of those you look at and go, I could do that.
On the radio, they will never see your lips move. All right, so eventually all four of these men started working for BBC Radio, and they were asked to make a comedy pilot. And
so this is Spike Milligan,
Harry Secombe, Peter Sellers,
not Tom Selleck, Peter Sellers,
and Michael Bentine, who is the fourth Goon, in the way that Stuart Sutcliffe is the fifth Beatle.
Okay.
So we'll come back to Bentine in a minute. But they realised they had this enormous talent in Peter Sellers, and they kind of oriented the whole of this pilot episode around his extraordinary ability to do funny voices and big vocal characterizations. And the BBC just didn't know what to make of it. And they didn't commission it. Mm-hmm. And maybe one mistake they made, and this time they did go kind of back and forth over with their producer, but they didn't record it in front of an audience.
Oh.
And that might have been an error. So eventually they got another chance a few years later, and this time they made sure that there was a crowd there, and that reassuring laughter was enough to convince the BBC to give them a shot. But it wasn't enough to convince the BBC to let them call it the Goon Show. So
was it a series of sketches? Was it a one play? So, because as I was saying before we started, I've done what's it called? Not lateral research. What would we call it? Adjacent research.
Yes.
Adjacent research, where I don't research what we're doing, but to get into the mood, I bought my folio, and I've been listening to Alexei Sale's Imaginary Sandwich Shop.
Cool, which I've never heard.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I bet.
It's him the whole time, and so it's kind of like stand-up monologues and kind of like maybe political or social commentary, and he plays different characters. But it starts out with like the sound of footsteps as he narrates kind of like what will be the opening theme of that episode. And he's walking to the sandwich shop, and then you hear a door open, and it's like, welcome to Alexei Sale's Imaginary Sandwich Shop. And then some music plays, and then he's in the shop. And
in his TV sketch show, he'd often do bits of essentially stand-up that were filmed with him walking down a street.
Yeah.
That's obviously a thing that he likes.
Oh, okay. So that's a little callback.
Yeah.
See, always learning on this podcast. Always learning.
These estates were supposed to be some kind of William Morris workers' paradise, where all the pros were going to play the flute and weave their own yogurt. And they were going to stand round all day in the wind-swept concrete piazzas discussing Chekhov. Here, don't you find, Ron, that Chekhov, with his alienating use of naturalism, makes one completely reassess one's attitude to the Russian bourgeoisie in the late 19th century? Oh, yes, a definite possibility too, yeah.
But yeah, I've listened to all 5 seasons series are on BBC iPlayer, and it's interesting. I started listening to the most recent one and going backwards, because what happened, it starts in 2016, and then there's some gaps in the years, but ends in, I think the last one was this year, 2025. So it's interesting to hear. There's a lot of political commentary, and obviously there was a big event. I don't know if you heard about it, the pandemic in between. So it's really interesting to kind of listen to what he has to say, but it also holds up comedically.
Great.
So yeah, highly recommend. But yeah, so what were they? Sorry, that was a huge tangent. So what were they doing?
So as television films were essentially theatre productions with cameras in front of them, so a lot of radio comedy was essentially musical with microphones in front of it.
Okay.
So typically a half-hour show would be 2 or 3 music acts interspersed with comedy sketches. And that's what the Goon Show was.
So not only, but also, but for the radio.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very, very similar vibe. But the name The Goon Show was the thing that the BBC was stuck on. There is this.
Me too, because it sounds. I don't know why. I don't think it's racist, but somehow the word goon seems racist to me. But I don't think it is.
It was used as a term of abuse. It was what prisoners in World War II used to refer to German guards.
Okay.
That's its origin. And it does, not to put too fine a point on it, sound quite close to a word which is definitely a racial slur.
Maybe that's why I keep cringing every time you say it. Yeah.
But there's a story, probably apocryphal, about some BBC executives in the review committee going through the week's programmes and saying, what is this Go On show? So for the first series, it went out as Crazy People.
Wait, that's the wrong one.
So this was a reference to the popular Crazy Gang who regularly appeared at the London Palladium. From the second series onwards, they were allowed to call it the Goon Show, but the second series was billed as the Goon Show, featuring those crazy people, Spike Milligan, Michael Benteen, Peter Sellers, etc.
I mean, maybe this is just because it's the 50s, so this was a novel idea, but the idea of being like, the crazy people, I really hate that as a title.
Yeah.
I'm a wild and crazy guy. You're like,
but these shows were bizarre, and they took a little while to find an audience. But by the end of the second series, the audience had grown from a few 100,000 to nearly 2 million.
Whoa.
And it was starting to become a really big popular thing. But a few things happened at this point. So
that is more viewers than I think Live at the Apollo gets in its current series.
That's a good stat. So
could be wrong. Don't think it is. I'm not the one who does the research.
Do you know, it didn't occur to me to research current viewing figures of Live at the Apollo when I sat down to do this. But anyway, that's left as an exercise for the listeners.
Yeah.
So after the second series, Michael Benteen stepped away. Mm-hmm. He'd kind of been playing the lead character in the sketches, very often a mad inventor called Osric Pureheart. Mm-hmm. But I think he kind of felt as if he was playing to a different tune than the other three. And so he stepped away, and that allowed Milligan, Sellers, and Secombe to flourish. And Milligan had taken on the bulk of the writing, but the strain was beginning to tell. So the other thing that happened at the end of the second series is that he had the first of a series of nervous breakdowns.
Spike Milligan did.
Yes.
Oh, what a comedy genius.
Yeah.
Did he write an Edinburgh Fringe show about it? No, it was too early.
He definitely would have done.
How many series did it run in total?
So it ran until 1960. So
this is American style running.
Yeah. Over the years, the BBC put out 238 episodes of The Goon Show.
And they were each a half hour?
Yeah.
Or no? I could finish that in a day.
I suspect
Come
not.
at me.
But it ran for a long time. It ran for 10 years. And the series varied in length. And there are a few that Milligan was not well enough to perform. But this is one interesting thing. When Milligan was unable to perform, Peter Sellers just took over all of his characters.
Just doing different voices.
But when there's a couple of shows that Peter Sellers couldn't appear in, and it took 2 or 3 different actors to fill in for him because he was so vocally dexterous.
Amazing. Now go back, because I
Yes.
interrupted. Tell me about the breakdown.
Spike Milligan said that the Goon Show ruined his health.
Physically or mentally?
Both.
Okay.
It drove him mad. He was on lithium for most of the rest of his life.
Oh, the voices. Sorry, it's not funny. Mental health crises aren't funny.
And the strain, just the physical strain of... They've been commissioned for 26 episodes. They're recording 1 a week, and that means every week you just have to come up with another script. And there were times when he was, finishing writing the script on the morning they were recording in front of an audience that evening.
Wait, so you said 26 episodes?
Many series contain 26 episodes.
Okay, this is American style.
Exactly.
But unlike, as we talked about in our very first episode 0, like they don't have a huge team of writers.
Nope.
It's just the 3-4 of them at 4 and then first 4 and then 3.
Secombe and Sellers very rarely did any writing.
So it all came down to Spike, right?
Spike Milligan had a few collaborators, notably Larry Stevens, who was a professional scriptwriter, and he kind of taught Spike Milligan early on how to take his wild flights of comic fancy and mold them into something resembling a story. And then other people came in and out, like Eric Sykes was another one. That's a name that might mean something to you. John Antrobus, a few other people kind of helped out here and there. But the bulk of it was Milligan, and the Goon Show is really what the inside of Spike Milligan's head sounds like.
This is very intriguing.
And it began, as we were saying, as a series of sketches. And then as time went on, and a lot of these early shows are lost, but by about the 5th series, then it tended to be one story over the course of half an hour with these musical interludes.
A lot of people in entertainment have had their entertainment careers simultaneously make them and ruin their life, as he said. Did Spike Milligan say why? Did he just say it was the strain?
Yeah.
The strain of it?
Just the pressure.
Did he say why he couldn't walk away?
I mean, when you're a success, it's hard to walk away.
Yeah.
And they did in the end. They did bring it to a close, and that was for other reasons besides. We'll talk about that afterwards.
Series,
yeah.
though.
I mean, nothing lasts forever.
Now I really respect the young ones for going, we're doing 2.
Yes.
We're doing 2.
Yeah.
We're staying friends. We're not losing our minds. Yeah. Okay.
So the structure of a typical episode begins with a very proper BBC announcer, mainly a man called Wallace Greenslade, who acts as like an MC. And then Harry Secombe generally just plays everyman Niddy Seagoon, who gets embroiled in some kind of scheme or other by one of the Goon Show repertory company of characters. So we have elderly couple Henry Crun and Minnie Bannister, purringly evil Hercules Gritpipe Thin, and his lackey Count Jim Moriarty, village idiot Eccles, eager Boy Scout Bluebottle, ancient army man Major Dennis Bloodknock, and more.
Yeah, you're going to have... Once we start... I feel like all that came into my head and left my head. I'm not even going to nod and go, uh-huh. So, when we listen to it, you're going to have to be like, this is who this is.
I mean, they pretty much introduced themselves, so it should be fine.
But are those all that's all the characters? That's not just
those are the
one
big
voice.
hitters.
But that's not one person voicing all of them.
It's almost always Sellers or Milligan. So when it's a double act, when it's Henry Crun and Minnie Bannister, one of them is Sellers, one of them is Milligan.
Okay.
If it's a single character like Major Bloodknock or Bluebottle, or actually Bluebottle's often paired up with Eccles, but Bluebottle is Sellers.
It just occurred to me that as we listen to this, whereas everything else I could be like, oh, okay, that's Terry Gilliam. Okay, that's who that looks like. And then he shows up in another sketch and I can be like, I recognize him. Their voices are going to be changing, so I'm not going to know who's who.
You'll probably be able to pick out Milligan, but one of the things that they latched onto early on is Sellers' extraordinary ability to transform himself. That was kind of what he was known for. He said in interviews again and again, it was sort of like a catchphrase of his almost, that there was no real Peter Sellers. He was simply the characters that he played.
Oh, wow. That is such an actor thing.
Yeah.
That is... I mean, we both have friends who are actors, so I don't want to besmirch them too much. But people who are really, really, really good at acting are horrible company because they don't have a personality.
Yes.
They just let the character fill them. Yeah.
Oh, one other thing it might be worth mentioning. I don't think this comes up in the episodes that we are going to listen to, but based on what you said about the Goon Show's name, this is maybe worth mentioning. Spike Milligan had grown up in India.
Are we going to hear some Indian accents
He
from
was
white people?
particularly fond of doing a British Indian accent.
It's okay, man. Hank Azaria was doing it in the 90s. You know what I mean? I grew up with that sort of thing.
He later reprised this in his television sketch shows and his 1969 ITV sitcom Curry and Chips.
That is...
Yeah, and there are also 2 musical interludes per episode, almost always by Dutch harmonica player Max Geldray and the Ray Ellington Quartet. And just like with Wallace Greenslade, Geldray and Ellington occasionally get heard in other contexts. They get kind of dragged into the action. And in Ray Ellington's case, the joke is usually about the colour of his skin.
Oh, no.
It was a different time. I should say, I think these jokes are often... I was thinking about this the other day. I think it's fair to call them innocent. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I don't think this is in the episodes we're going to listen to, but there's an episode in which Niddy Seagoon says something like, are you a blacksmith? And Ray Ellington responds, my name's Smith and you've got eyes, haven't you?
Okay, yeah, that's...
So they're not like punching down.
Yeah.
But I think the word innocent has 2 connotations, positive and negative. Mm-hmm. The positive connotation is no harm is meant, but the negative connotation is no care has been taken.
Yeah.
And I think that is a fair assessment of those jokes. And there are occasional jokes about Max Geldray being Jewish as well. Mm-hmm. I think in one episode, Harry Secombe says that his nose is fine after all, it'll keep the rain off his tie.
Yeah, here's the thing. Whenever we talk about like what you can and can't say in comedy, and some people say you can't say anything anymore, it's like comedy has evolved as more people have entered the discussion and have been able to been listened to. And like I don't like not to excuse anything that's ever been said in comedy, and not to be like it wasn't that big of a deal, because usually I'm not the punching bag being a white lady. But yeah, I think it's often kind of important to know what was acceptable at one point to see how it's all kind of evolved, and then to look at certain jokes and be like, yeah, but if you could say it, would you want to?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think Ray Ellington and Max Geldray would have experienced these jokes as cruel or themselves as victims. That doesn't come across at all. And they wouldn't have stuck around for 10 years, I don't think. Even given that maybe they didn't have their absolute pick of gigs and this was a plum roll to get. I don't think they were persecuted. I don't want to kind of run away with that idea.
Yeah.
But this just sounded to me a bit careless.
They're not around to ask how they felt about it anymore. Yeah. But it kind of makes me think about when Friends started to stream on Netflix, younger generations started to watch it.
And yes, this pasty white New York, which bore no resemblance to the New York that you'd actually see if you went and visited.
And they were also horrified at how homophobic it was. Yeah. And everyone was like, it's so homophobic, it's so homophobic, it's so homophobic. And I don't disagree. But what I will point out is one of the creators of Friends was a gay man. Yeah. And who is alive. And I didn't go looking deep, but I never saw anyone ask him, how do you feel about it now? And this what I mean? Like, he wrote it. So he would have been okay with it, but looking back, was it like an institutionalized, like, oh, this is what the joke is, and like you never thought about how you felt about it at the time? How do you feel about it now? I'm always so curious as tastes and as sensitivities evolve, how people might feel about it now.
This is a real digression, but there's another radio comedy a little bit later called Round the Horn, which again featured, it wasn't a story, there were different sketches, but there were recurring characters. And you had very proper avuncular Kenneth Horne anchoring these crazy characters played by a small repertory company of actors. And the most celebrated were a very effeminate couple called Julian and Sandy, played by closeted gay man Kenneth Williams. And I think, was Hugh Paddick gay or was he straight? I actually don't know. But anyway, so these very, very camp men talking in this slightly made up, slightly appropriated Polari language, full of all this obscure slang and some very, very dirty jokes. So Kenneth Horne would visit them, and they had like a different job every week, and he visited them, and they were working as lawyers.
Well, Miss Strawn, how nice to barter your dolly old eek again. Oh, what brings you trolling in here?
Well, can you help me? I've erred.
Yeah, we've all erred, Ducky. I mean, it's common knowledge, isn't it, Jules?
Look, will you take my case?
Well, it depends on what it is. We've got a criminal practice that takes up most of our time.
Yes, but apart from that...
That's a very good joke. And the point is, you listen to them today and they sound like the most outrageous stereotypes.
Yeah.
But gay men in the early 60s loved Julian and Sandy.
Yeah.
Because that was the only representation they had. And it seemed very affectionate.
Yeah. Well, and just when you start to get included in the conversation, I guess, too, like you were saying how they'd make jokes about their Jewish cast members. It's like, at least we're talking about it.
Yes.
At least they know the Jewish people are on the radio. They wouldn't know otherwise.
The last thing to say about the Goon Show is that Spike Milligan Scripts also tested the BBC sound effects department to its limits.
What do you mean? That's a fart sound.
So the sound effects department was used to only providing footsteps on a gravel path
Or
or the opening of a squeaky door. But it was pushed to near breaking point by Milligan's request for things like a sock full of custard hitting the ceiling.
that's not on my thing.
Or an elephant falling downstairs. I think he's supposed to put in the stage directions, if an elephant isn't available, a rhino will do. But as time went on, the effects team got better and better understanding what it was that Milligan needed. So there's also a little strand of the development of rock music here. Like things starting to become more and more orally sophisticated and creating a real landscape of sound rather than just a momentary ping or whistle to let you know that something had happened.
I mean, we don't have a Patreon yet, but it is one of those things where, like, if we did a small side episode, I think it'd be really interesting to talk about the evolution of folio.
Yes.
Folio is the word,
Foley.
right? Foley.
Foley, yes.
What's a folio? I've been saying the wrong thing the whole time.
A folio is like a folder. Foley is... So people distinguish between recorded sound effects and Foley. So,
I told you guys I was the ignorant American.
Foley
How
artists-
long have we been talking?
Yeah.
20 minutes. And you didn't, not once did you say, Abigoliah? Stop saying you brought your own
I mean, we
folio.
began the conversation by characterizing me as the mansplainer. That kind of backed me into a
Okay,
corner.
okay.
So-
I did this to myself.
Foley artists in films are the ones who will watch the action, and then when a punch is thrown, they will take a baseball bat and hit
a
a piece
pillow,
of canvas
yeah.
or something exactly to try and time it and make those sound effects exactly right, as opposed to a pre-recorded whooshing wind or something like that, which you just play in for the appropriate length of time. That's the distinction.
Okay.
And likewise, yeah, with a radio comedy show, typically there would be both pre-recorded sound effects that were being played in. And again, you want to play this in for the audience so the audience can hear it. And a guy, almost always a guy, standing in front of a tray of gravel with a pair of shoes and a little mini door which would squeak when he opened and closed it, and doing all those things on cue.
My first exposure to Foley was in the musical Annie. There's a scene where
yes.
it cuts to them doing a radio program, and someone is holding tap shoes on a
That's
box,
right, yes.
pretending to be the tap dancer. And I was like, I remember just being like, look, not that I even listened to a lot of radio, but it was one of those like, oh, the magic of entertainment. Like, I think it's really interesting. I know you will be surprised. I know very little about Foley. I think it's interesting. Anyways,
All right, so like I said, the first 3 or 4 series of the Goon Show, very few episodes exist. I think most of the scripts exist, but very few of the episodes. So I started listening from series 5. I've listened to more episodes of the Goon Show in the last few weeks than I have in my entire life to date. And I picked a couple. So one I zeroed in on quite early on because it contains one of Spike Milligan's most celebrated comic riffs.
okay.
And then another one I just thought, that's kind of pretty accessible. Feels to me like a good way in. So we're going to start with series 5, episode 2, which is called The Lost Gold Mine. And that's, I think, pretty accessible. And then we're going to do series 7, episode 19, which is called The Mysterious Punch Up the Conker.
Punch up the Conker.
Yes.
That sounds dirty.
It's not dirty.
That sounds very nasty.
So we'll start with The Lost Gold Mine.
Okay, let's do it.
So left to right, Secombe, Milligan, Sellers.
I'm having trouble focusing. I think I need like Lego or something to do with my hands.
Peter Sellers as Hercules Gritpipe Thin is essentially doing George Sanders, who was a British actor in Hollywood at the time. He's also the voice of Shere Khan in The Jungle Book.
Yeah. Is this the one you picked because it was accessible, or is this the one?
Accessible.
Okay. Is it because they go to America?
Wait, this Indian goon might save the day. Tell me, Chief Wadika, Are you strong, man?
We eat strong. We always eat wheat posty for breakfast. All men of distinction eat wheat posty. See, they move around the cactus bush 6 paces. That's right. Then forward 10 paces over here. Yes. And in a straight line 20 paces. What can they have been doing? The foxtrot.
I think it's easier for me to focus on it if I look at the ceiling than look at the waveform. So I'm not asleep. I'm imagining it. Is that Peter Sellers, the old man again? He is amazing. Because if you didn't tell me one of them was so vocally ambidextrous, I'd probably just assume it's different people.
Until further notice, all people showing signs of darkness will be searched. I object!
Is that joke what I think that joke was? Okay.
Meanwhile, in sleeping England, and let's face it, England is asleep.
And so am I.
Surrounded the crown of the
Harry Seaman, Spike Milligan, with the Ray Electric Quartet, Max Gilray and the orchestra conductor.
I have opinions.
Okay. I think you asked me in our episode 0 what was the most recent show we were likely to watch. This is probably going to be the oldest.
Okay.
I don't think we'll go back much further than 1951. And this is definitely the product of a bygone age in all sorts of ways. Did it work for you at all?
All right. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's a famous interview with Aretha Franklin before she passed, where a journalist is asking her what she thinks of certain pop stars. And the journalist says a pop star, and Aretha Franklin is like beautiful voice. Another pop star, she's like wonderful sound. And then the journalist says Taylor Swift.
When I say the name Adele, what comes to mind? Just
Young
one word.
singer, good singer.
Alicia Keys.
Young performer, good writer, producer.
Taylor Swift.
Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.
Always well dressed. And what did I think of the Goon Show? Wonderful music. Really enjoyed the harmonica. Here's the thing. When we said we were going to do this, you were like, this will be weird because it's radio, so you'll have nothing to watch. And I really wasn't worried because I listen to podcasts. I listen to more podcasts than I do music. I didn't think I'd have a problem with it. But so when I gave up social media for 3 months, usually when I listen to a podcast, I'm doing something. I'm running, I'm cleaning the house. And there was always this moment where I'd finish doing something and I'd have 15 minutes of a podcast left. And I'd sit down and I'd be like, I don't know what to do with my hand.
Yes.
I'm going to say the Goon Show wasn't one of my favorites, but you did say it's on Audible.
Yes.
So I'm going to go away and give it a chance and say, how do I feel about it when I'm actively doing something? Because I feel like if I'm moving, also I'm really tired this morning. You said it's like inspired so much, and I was like, Abigoliah, you are going to get it. You're gonna like it. And I'll try it again.
A lot of it is just weird juxtapositions.
Yeah.
Like in the last one, the whole business with the leather omnibus. That's just a weird juxtaposition. Like a bus should not be made out of leather.
Okay.
Therefore funny.
So a couple things. One, the mysterious punch up the Conker. Until they mentioned nose guards, I was like, I didn't know what they meant by Conker. At first I thought, or conk.
Yes,
I thought,
conk his nose.
Okay, because at first I was like, oh, are they talking about the things on trees? In America, we call them buckeyes. And then that clearly wasn't it. But if you're going to punch up at something, I was like, is this an intimate part of the body? And then an omnibus. I know what a bus is, but what's an omnibus?
Bus is short for omnibus.
All buses are omnibuses?
They are, yes.
What does omni mean?
Many. So it's a vehicle that carries many people.
Well, I am always learning something on this podcast. I mean, I'm never going to be mad that we've watched or listened to something. Like, I'm not like, this is the worst thing ever. And it is kind of like Monty Python. I'm just like, okay, and just not for me. But I do want to go, like I said, I think it'd be interesting to experience. Do you have to buy it on Audible or is it free on Audible?
It's free with a subscription.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to go away and listen to it on Audible.
It does help to get more familiar with the characters and the running jokes and so on. And it's not really a sitcom in the traditional sense because the characters don't have pre-existing or ongoing relationships. It's more like Looney Tunes, where the Daffy Duck and Porky Pig and so on will be in different contexts in different episodes, and it's never clear whether they've met each other before, and certainly wouldn't expect the events of a previous cartoon short to influence the events of the one you're watching now. So likewise, we hear Henry Cron and Minnie Bannister in the first one running a hotel, and then in the second one making leather omnibuses, and there's no hint that there is a journey that they've been on that got them from point A to point B. It's these guys again.
It felt like a quest show is what I wrote down. So it's like they go on a treasure hunt. They do a mystery. Like it's these characters, like you said, put in different places. So I understand that they're not attached. And it's like, okay, now we're going to go experience this. Okay, so for The Lost Gold Mine of Charlotte, which as we watched it, on the screen, it said Charlotte. I asked if they were in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now,
I think actually they're in New Orleans.
Okay.
Which is why everyone's speaking French.
There is no desert in New Orleans. And I don't know why that bugged me so much. And also, when they got to the end, and what was it? It's like,
there's no gold because
there's
that's
no
Charlotte.
gold. That's Charlotte. I was like, this was an episode that was written backwards. Spike Milligan came up with that line and then had them mispronounce Charlotte the entire time for that one payoff. I
mean, Goon shows that have payoffs are fairly rare in themselves.
Yeah.
So that one had one was one of the reasons why I thought it was worthwhile including.
I also, if Charlotte hadn't been written on the thing, I would have thought it was shallot, like the
vegetable.
The vegetable the whole time. I hate to be this guy, but the gold rush didn't happen in New Orleans. Like it's out, like they were like, we're in New Orleans. And then, and it was like, okay, we're in New Orleans. And then they started speaking like they're out west, but they never said like, we're in Colorado where the gold rush really happened or like,
So Milligan is sort of taking all of these different bits and pieces and putting them in a kind of comedy blender. So it'll be, bits of Treasure of the Sierra Madre, bits of Fu Manchu, bits of Sherlock Holmes. There are episodes set in the past. There's one which is a riff on Pepys' Diary, when a very famous production of 1984 on BBC television caused uproar. Milligan wrote an episode called 1985, which spoofed George Orwell. So he's always kind of taking these familiar tropes, and particularly these kind of boys' own adventure stuff, like being lost in the desert and treasure maps endlessly being divided and so on.
I will say, I have two predictions of what other episodes might be, and I'm going to be honest. I've thought I might be right before. I think I might have. Now that you've said that, I'm like, I think I've nailed the game. I think I know the game. But yeah, and then so as we were watching it, I had a lot of trouble focusing as we watched it. And when I looked up at the ceiling, I could like visualize it a little bit more. But you asked me something about the lost gold mine, and just in case we don't pick that up in that record, can you ask me again? Do you remember
what did I ask you?
What I thought of the...
Oh, yes. So one of the characters in the Lost Gold Mine, again, a kind of tropey character, is the quote-unquote Red Indian.
And I completely missed that happen.
Oh.
Like, it went over my head.
Big Chief Worry Guts.
Yeah, I totally...
Who speaks in that stereotypical quote-unquote Red Indian style. Me heap big.
Yeah, see... That's the thing, is I just had so much trouble focusing that I completely missed an incredibly cringy and
I'm sorry,
culturally insensitive part of American culture that I'm hyper aware of, because I know this sounds stupid, but my sister lives in New Mexico, so she's very like on point with like what you can and cannot say about Native Americans. And that came up and I just completely missed it. So that's how unfocused I was watching it. So then comes the question for me of, am I even giving this a fair shot? You know what I mean? Like, you know, when an Edinburgh reviewer will review 8 shows in a day and you're the 8th show, did you even have a chance? Yeah. And so I'm just wondering, am I just too tired? Am I too unfocused to really get it?
That sequence towards the end, which about the time written on the piece of paper, that's one of the most celebrated bits of the whole Goon Show. Did that work for you at all?
I thought it was funny, but because the reason why I was like, is this the one with the I asked you, is this the more accessible one or is this the one with a celebrated bit? I was hoping I would be like, that must be the one. I thought it was fun, but I wasn't like, that's it. That's the one. When you got to the part where he was like, I fell in the water, fell in the lake. And you were like, famous catchphrase. I was like, wouldn't have known it. Just completely.
I just thought it was worthwhile explaining why an innocuous phrase like falling in the water suddenly got
a huge
20 seconds of applause.
Yeah. I think the audio in it was fantastic. Like, before we started recording, I asked you, I was like, am I going to be able to like hear it? Because it's, you know, was it going to be scratchy? I thought whatever they've done to remaster it, I thought it sounded great. I did really like the music. And that whole orchestra was just gorgeous. Like, do you know how big the orchestra was?
Off the top of my head, no, probably about 10.
Okay. It was great sound.
Yeah.
And then the harmonica guy and the Ellington quartet, I thought was really fun. What do you think? I like the music. Is not it's not a ringing endorsement of one of the most influential shows. You know what? I wonder if this is going to wind up being a thing, but the ones that are the most influential are the ones that I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to see what the next guy does, because this is how I felt about
that's
Flying Circus.
That's often how innovation works.
Yeah, that's true.
The people who do things first don't do it in the most refined way, and so other people will take those same ideas and build on them and do a more sophisticated version.
Yeah.
It's really rare to have somebody doing something brand new and get it right first time.
Yeah. And maybe it's just the time. You could hear them like break at times, start to giggle, and obviously they're in front of an audience that loved it. It's cool to hear a live recording like that. And when I started doing stand-up 3,000 years ago, like, people weren't doing specials for YouTube or constantly recording Netflix specials. Most comedians were recording albums.
Yes.
Even in the early 2000s, when I started comedy, and I would listen to comedy albums all the time, and I kind of miss that. It's not that you can't do it anymore. It's just like,
why would you?
No one does.
Yeah.
But I loved walking around listening to live comedy. And so, like I said, I'm not going to give up on it. But yeah, that was a long hour. That felt like a long hour for me.
It's interesting you say you can kind of hear how much fun they're having. Peter Sellers, who suffered from depression, would often say later in his career, when he was a movie star, when he was dating people like Sophia Loren,
wow,
would say, I was happiest on Sunday nights recording the Goon Show with my friends.
Aww.
Let me tell you what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
So the show finished in 1960. By this time, it's become a national institution, counting among its fans not just, as mentioned, the young Peter Cook, the young John Cleese, the young Ade Edmondson, but also the Beatles, Elton John, and especially the then Prince Charles, who would do all the voices to amuse his RAF buddies.
Aww.
So I think I've touched on this. Peter Sellers became a film star. He was already making movies during the Goon Show. He's in classic British comedies like The Lady Killers, I'm All Right, Jack, The Smallest Show on Earth. He made 2 movies with Stanley Kubrick, Lolita and Dr. Strangelove, which made him an international movie star.
That's how I know his name. He's in Doctor Strangelove.
He is, playing 3 roles.
Yes! I listened to another podcast about Doctor Strangelove, which, guess what? I have also not seen. But they were talking about all the characters that this one guy does, this Peter Sellers, and that's who it is. Okay.
And then he partnered with an American director called Blake Edwards on several projects, including 5 Pink Panther films.
Yes. Oh, I do know who Peter Sellers is. Why didn't you say all
He's
of this
Inspector
at the very
Clouseau.
beginning?
Yeah.
I know exactly who he is.
And Sellers himself was working on a script for a 6th Pink Panther film when he died.
Oh.
Following the latest in a series of heart attacks, he was 54, and he'd been planning to meet up with Milligan and Secombe for a Goon Show reunion the next day.
That's going to make me cry.
It's really sad.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, he was also a nutcase, it's worth saying. Like, he was phobic about the colour purple and refused to have it on any film set he was working on. He got on so badly with Orson Welles when they were filming the spoof James Bond film Casino Royale together that they actually couldn't both be on set at the same time.
To be fair, I don't think Orson Welles would have been a cup of tea either. Like, I don't know much about Orson Welles, but he doesn't seem like he would have been an easy person.
They were both show-offs, but Orson Welles was an extrovert who wanted to be the centre of attention and would annoy, especially Peter Sellers, by doing magic tricks when they were supposed to be filming. And Peter Sellers was much more introverted, but had this ability to disappear into these incredible characters. It's a shame that I can't show you Doctor Strangelove without telling you that 3 of the characters are played by Peter Sellers, because most people don't clock it until halfway through the movie, if at all.
Yeah, I did know, because I've listened to another podcast about it. But, okay, so Peter Sellers suffered from depression.
He did.
Spike Milligan had a breakdown. This is just like the comedy world of like, I am a genius, but I am a troubled soul. And then what about Beekman, Aikman.
Harry Secombe.
Secombe, there we go.
Harry Secombe seems to have had a perfectly kind of affable life. He ended up doing lots of musical theatre. Have you seen the film Oliver?
Yes.
He's Mr. Bumble in Oliver.
One boy for sale. He's going cheap.
How much then?
Only 7 guineas.
How much?
Okay, yeah.
And he sort of retired from that kind of performing sometime in the 70s and ended up hosting lots of religious television programs for the BBC, like Songs of Praise and Highway. And he died in 2001 at the age of 79.
A good, healthy, long life.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But it's Milligan who is the heart and soul of the Goon Show, and nothing he did after this quite lived up to it, certainly in terms of impact. He wrote some books which are very highly regarded. He inspired the Pythons with his Q series. You might remember in episode 1 I said that Terry Jones had this idea that they could abandon punchlines and realised that Spike Milligan had beaten them to the punch, but they had Terry Gilliam, so they could do it in an even more free-flowing way. He's in various British comedy films of varying degrees of quality. He can be glimpsed in Life of Brian. Because he happened to be on holiday in Tunisia when they were filming there, and they said, you have to be in it. So
of course.
Do you remember the bit in Life of Brian where they're all following Brian because they think he's the Messiah?
Yeah.
And there's one bit where the crowd disperses and one old man is left looking bewildered. That's Spike Milligan.
Okay, cool.
And he was given a Lifetime Achievement Award at the British Comedy Awards in 1994. And when host Jonathan Ross was reading out a tribute to him from Prince Charles, he interrupted to call the Prince of Wales a little grovelling bastard. He later faxed the palace with a note reading, I suppose a knighthood is out of the question.
You know what? I don't know much about now King Charles, but I do know that he loves theater and he loves performing, and he took the time to write that. And when it got back to him, what Spike Milligan said, it would have crushed his little royal heart.
I think he would have found it funny.
You think?
Yeah,
Okay.
The truth is, I think Milligan and Charles were actually quite good friends.
Did they know each other?
They did, yeah. A little
Okay,
bit, yeah.
then that's a different story.
Yes.
So how did Spike Milligan's life, is he still alive?
No, he died in 2002 at the age of 83.
Okay. He sounds, I mean, kind of like the Peter Cook of the crew, where it's like the driving force, the great writer, the comic genius, and then after they left the show,
and his
sidekick
sidekick becomes a film star.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. Very similar.
This is interesting now to watch how it all kind of looks similar to each other.
So you said you had some predictions about what you thought future episodes of the Goon Show might hold. And I should stress again, I've listened to a lot of Goon Shows recently, but I haven't scratched the surface because there are hundreds of them. So when you say, did they do this in a future episode? Very likely my answer will be, I don't know.
Okay.
But we'll see.
We could maybe check in with this Tyler fella.
We could ask Tyler.
So this is the one that might not have happened, but since they ended in the 60s, that was the beginning of the space race. So the Goon Show goes to space in search for life on Mars.
Ooh, interesting. I haven't heard of a kind of science fiction Goon Show, but you're right. There's lots of pulp sci-fi knocking around in the 50s.
And then it
would be an obvious thing for them to do.
That was also around when your show, the Doctor Who, was going on radio then?
No, Doctor Who started on television in 63.
Okay.
So this would have finished before Doctor Who. But Quatermass was on TV in the 50s.
My next one, which I really do think I nailed this, I think this happened, is they go to Egypt to look for the tomb of a cursed mummy.
Oh, I'm sure that happened, yes. I'm not, it must have done.
It's always a quest, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Madness had got us, but the lust for gold drove us on towards the hidden tomb.
Oh, look up there. There's vultures circling. There's vultures circling around.
What are they doing up there?
Flying.
Bad luck. You think they're waiting to eat us?
I'm not sure, but keep your eyes on the ones carrying knives and forks.
Yeah.
Which does make it seem fun. Like, again, I was like, okay, we're in a mystery. Okay, we're in a Western set in New Orleans. Look at a map. Like, I'm the dumb country. I'm the dumb. All you had, just move it to Colorado. Just move it to Colorado. But, yeah, I like the idea of, like, you know, when I was a kid, like reading like the Babysitter's Club or the Boxcar Children or Nancy Drew, it was always like Nancy Drew goes and does this. The Boxcar Children go and do this. The Babysitter's Clubs go and do this. It was always these people in different scenarios. So I can get on board with the premise. I just couldn't stay focused long enough to enjoy it or even notice the racial undertones.
Yes. And you might ask, why didn't they go to TV? And
because it's you can get away with playing a Native American on the radio, but not on TV.
There are a few attempts to do the Goon Show in front of cameras. There are some early Goon characters in a film called Down Among the Z-Men, which was as early as 1952, so it still has Michael Bentine in it. But Milligan wasn't allowed to write the script. It was adapted from Goon Show scripts by someone else, and it didn't make any money. Mm-hmm. And then
that's a stupid choice.
Milligan, Sellers, and Secombe made 5 episodes of a show called Fred. You can tell they like the name Fred for ITV in 1956, and then another 8 under the title Son of Fred later that year. And then there are some episodes they're kind of made for children of a series called The Telegoons, which was episodes of the Goon Show re-edited down to about 15 minutes. The voices re-recorded by Sellers, Milligan, and Secombe, and then puppets used to play the characters.
Oh, that could be fun.
And it's fine. But the most significant partnership they had was with a young American director called Richard Lester. And he made a film with them called the Running, Jumping, Standing Still film.
I like that title.
Lester went on to make the Beatles film A Hard Day's Night, which has some of that kind of frenetic Goon Show energy. And some people will tell you that the film A Hard Day's Night essentially is the birthplace of the music video.
Okay.
Because for the first time you have a song with a piece of visual accompaniment specifically made for it that gets associated with it. Because what's, I think, most interesting to me about the Goon Show in terms of the overall entertainment landscape is it goes from 51 to 60. And in that time, television eclipses radio as the place people go for entertainment.
Yeah.
So in 51, everyone's listening to the radio and television is in its infancy. But by 1960, television is a mature medium and more people are watching television than are listening to the radio.
Interesting.
There's one final bit of the chapter, which is in 1972, over 10 years after the final Goon Show had been broadcast, they were reunited to record a new Milligan script as part of another celebration, the last Goon Show of all, and this was broadcast on the radio and shown on television. So you can see what a Goon Show would have looked like. And I nearly chose to show you that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's A, not very representative, B, it's not very good.
Oh, no.
And C, it's kind of playing the hits. And you sort of have to know what the Goon Show is in order to appreciate what's going on.
Okay, I will say I think that's interesting because for not only but also you did just show me the hits, but for this you have to know all the inside. I guess you have to know the characters and
also this isn't a very linear narrative, but it is, each episode is a self-contained story, whereas not only but also is a sketch show, so you can cut it up more easily.
Yeah, I don't think this would translate to television because oddly enough, like television being the new piece of technology, which is like we can go so much further because we can show people where they are and what they're doing, would be really limiting to what they do. Because if one episode they're doing a murder mystery to punch up the Conker, and then the next one they're in America searching for gold, that's a lot more expensive to film. And obviously they weren't going to go on location, but like even just building the sets.
And Blue Bottle blowing himself up with dynamite is very funny on the radio, but almost any way of visualizing that just makes it horrible.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
Something I found out quite recently. Do you remember, do you ever watch the old classic silent comedies? I'm thinking specifically here of Harold Lloyd.
No.
So Harold Lloyd he's like the third of the big three along with Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. And one of his stock in trades was thrill pictures. So his most famous film is Safety Last, where because of some plot, as Tom Tuck would put it, he has to take the place of a human fly and climb up the outside of a skyscraper.
Okay.
And so audiences in the 1920s, this was the most incredible thing they'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And in fact, there is a certain amount of trickery involved, but it looks incredibly convincing as this man who they know is a movie star is climbing up the side of this enormous skyscraper and about to fall to his death at any moment. And then when sound came in, like a lot of the big silent stars of cinema, Harold Lloyd struggled to adjust, although actually speaking for him wasn't a particular problem. But one of the thoughts he had was, I'll remake some of my classic silents as sound films. But the thing is, when you can just watch somebody climbing up the side of a building and slipping and about to fall, it's funny. When you can hear his whimpers and cries of distress, it kind of becomes a bit upsetting.
Yeah.
And that little change makes all the difference.
That's so interesting. I would love to see them do a live recording, the Goon Show.
Yeah, well, you can see the last Goon Show of all, so you can see them in front of the mics and with the orchestra behind them and so on.
Which I will definitely look up. Like, I think this would be delightful to watch. If they tried to turn it into a traditional studio-like comedy, it's not a sitcom, but for lack of a better word, sitcom, I don't think it would be nearly as funny if you could see it. And I didn't laugh that much. Like, I think as a radio program, it was perfect. And it's, like you said, the Foley found it challenging. I can't imagine, like, making it visual.
Yeah. All right, so I think I know where we're heading with this, but does the Goon Show earn a place on the shelf of fame, or is it consigned to the bargain bin?
Oh, it's in the bargain bin. That is not... I mean, when you turned to me after we listened to the first episode and went, can you do another? I nearly went, I don't need to, but I wanted to. But like I said, I am going to go away. Who knows? Maybe I'll go away, listen to it in a different circumstance, and change my mind, because you never know.
Yeah, families used to all sit around the radio and listen to dramas, comedies, entertainment shows, and we just don't do that anymore. We're out of the habit of exercising our visual imaginations in that way.
Well, when I put my head back, I could see it more, which was nice. But it is interesting because I was like, okay, I said, what if I had some Lego, or what if I had my embroidery, or what if I was on a run, or just to sit there and let it wash over me. I found that so difficult. And like you said, that's how everyone did it. Maybe Mom would be doing some knitting, but...
We have one more radio show to come in this first season.
Oh,
if you want to bring embroidery, you should feel free.
Maybe I will. Yeah. Maybe I will, just for the visual of
yes.
I'll put on my little glasses. I'll be real cute. It's in the bargain bin, but I do think if I give it a chance outside of our little sessions, it could wind up on the wall.
Okay, all right. We haven't...
I do think they're wildly talented. I think it's a wonderful idea. I like... Again, it's like Monty Python. You explain it to me. I'm like, this is great. I watch it and I'm like, let's just talk about the concepts. But yeah.
All right, so without wanting to preempt anything, I suspect our show for next time might strike a deeper chord. Definitely one of my personal favourites, and someone who redefined the landscape in a rather different way. Next time we're going to be watching Victoria Wood, who became a national treasure despite having essentially no role models to follow.
Oh.
So we could watch, I think, pretty much any of her TV show Victoria Wood has seen on TV and have a lovely time. I've picked, after quite a lot of debate and kind of back and forth with myself, I've picked episode 5 of series 1 and episode 1 from series 2. Basically because each one contains one favourite bit of mine.
Well, I'm very excited to watch a female-led comedy in Landmarks. Was that the Landmark? She was a woman.
I mean, kind of, yes.
Which, okay.
But that's not nothing.
I just want to say, when we were doing, this is stuck in my freaking head since I think it's when we did The Young Ones. And
Lisa Mayer.
We were talking about how she didn't go on to do stuff after her and Rick split. And you were like, that's the 80s, man. The Goon Show opened in 1951. What was on American television?
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy. For every show you show me, I could do an American equivalent that was just as big and just as beloved for every decade that was female-led. But you know what is interesting? Everyone forgets that happened.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets about the ladies.
Phyllis Diller, Mary Tyler Moore. All these
the
amazing
Carol
people.
Burnett show.
Carol Burnett, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm preempting myself here slightly, but Victoria Wood would have had no way of seeing any of those, I wouldn't have thought. She certainly never mentioned any of those incredible women because it was just harder to watch American shows in Britain at the time.
I'm very excited to check this out because I know nothing. I keep saying I know who she is, and then I realize whenever people say Victoria Wood, I just picture Jennifer Saunders and
Dawn French.
Dawn French.
Yes.
Like I have no clue where we're going with this, so I'm excited. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to All British Comedy Explained. A couple ways you can support the show. One, tell a friend about it. Help spread the word. We are a new podcast, and we so value your help and listenership in getting the word out. Secondly, go into your podcatcher app and leave us a 5-star review. Helps other cool people like you find the show. And we are on social media. We are on YouTube if you want to watch the series. And we are mostly on Instagram and TikTok, British Comedy Pod, if you want to follow us there. Anything else to add?
We have a mailing list. You can sign up to our mailing list to get notified as soon as a new episode is released.
And the mailing list you can find at
allbritishcomedy.com.
Great. And thank you so much, guys, for listening. That's all from me. I'm Abigoliah Schamaun.
And I'm Tom Salinsky. Goodbye. You have been listening to All British Comedy Explained with Abigoliah Schamaun and Tom Salinsky. It was a Spontaneity Shop production for the internet. Find us online at allbritishcomedy.com, join our Facebook group, sign up to our mailing list, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok. Join us next time for episode 5, Victoria Wood as seen on TV.